Hey everybody, welcome to our first Engineers Live Q&A session. How's everybody doing today? I see some familiar faces in the chat. What's going on, guys? We're happy to see you all here. We're happy to be able to bring the community together. We're excited and hopefully to help you guys succeed in your business and you guys learn some really cool shit from today's talk. It's going to be really good. The reason for these Q&As is to help educate and grow our community. We really want to set you guys up for as much success as possible. You know, in the industry that we're in, there's a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of secrets, but we just want to make it as easy as for you guys to be able to navigate through this industry. So with these Q&As, the idea is to just unveil some secrets, hopefully give you guys some keys to success on your journey. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear what we have for you guys today. Whether you're just starting or you're looking to book your first project or you're a seasoned veteran, these Q&As are kind of for every type of engineer. It's really not tailored towards any type. It's for everyone, just because we're always looking to learn. There's always something to be learned. So, you know, obviously engineers always want to know how can we book more projects. So the goal here today is to really give you guys some real tools to success, how to book some more projects, and who better than to kick off our first Q&A with than to hear it from someone who's just doing that. He has been a tremendous success on the platform. He's been killing it. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest. He's one of the most sought after engineers on the platform. He's worked with artists like Post Malone, Wale, and he's completed over 1,000 projects on EngineEars. Hailing from Nashville, Tennessee, we have EDG Mixing. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
What's up, EDG, man? What's going on? How's Nashville?
It's good. It's hot out here, but everything's been good. Everything's been busy with the schedule, which is always good. So,
Amazing. Introduce yourself to the people. Give us a little background about yourself and your career.
yeah, for sure. So, my name's Eduardo Gigo. I go by EDG Mixing. I'm a audio engineer. I do a lot of freelance mixing and mastering. I also work at a commercial studio here in Nashville called Blackbird Studio. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much what takes up most of my time. I originally got into engineering from finding some of my dad's old DJ equipment. I started DJing like some high school parties. From there, kind of just fell in love with music, try to learn as much as I could, started producing, realized that people would always need me to record if I was in sessions trying to produce. And from there, I realized that what I really like to do is engineering more than producing. So I tried my best to make a career out of it.
Tell me what that transition was like when you decided to make a career out of it. What was like your first client or first mix like?
Yeah, for sure. So I go to college for audio. I graduated from Belmont University last May. And while I was going to college, I was lucky enough to have access to the internet nowadays, and I saw a lot of people like Ali and a lot of other big mix engineers talk about how school for audio isn't necessarily going to get you a job. So I was really set from the moment I went to college on making sure that even if I did my best to do good in school for audio, I was also treating myself as if I had already graduated and trying to start my career. So I was truly reaching out to like every artist possible, recording anyone that would be down to do it, whether they were going to pay me or not. Um, and then this was probably around my freshman and sophomore year of college, and then COVID happened. And at that point, I had been recording a lot of people at my college. But we all got sent home, and at this point, all my friends and people that I had met, artists in the city I was recording, started hitting me up, asking me how they could record themselves. From there, they would record themselves. Didn't like how it sounded, so they learned how to send me tracks. And from there, I realized that I could do remote mixing, and yeah, did my best to start a business from it.
What tell me from there the journey from discovering engineers to just working out of a dorm room.
Yeah, and EngineEars, I discovered it way before when it was still on the beta version. The site looked nothing like it looks now, which is amazing. Yeah, it was cool. I remember I was just again doing whatever I possibly could to set myself up for after I graduated and had to start working in the industry. And I found out who Ali was, saw that this was a platform he was building, so I signed up for the wait list as soon as I could. After a couple months, I got onboarded, um, and yeah, it was something that truly I feel like helped my career in a way that I didn't imagine it could have before I graduating.
I want to unpack that. So explain to me like what your process was like before you were working on engineers, just like as far as file delivery, reaching out to clients, just communication, chasing payments. Like, what was that like before you had
Yeah.
engineers?
Yeah, I mean, it was chaos, and engineers really, at least for me, came at the perfect time. Um, it was right when, as soon as I started mixing, I was honestly doing it for free for a lot of people. I personally don't even think I was good enough to be charging, so I was really open to just working with anyone. And then as I did that as much as I could and got better at it, I got to the point where I was getting hit up too much to do it for free, so I started charging people, and I was just doing whatever I could. So Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, just any form of payment I would have to take, and then we transfer links that would expire. So I would end up getting files or sending back emails, sending mixes through text at times if the artist wasn't capable enough of like having a good consistent email. So yeah, every single mix that I got was a different process. I felt like chasing payments, it was like always an argument whether like the artist was going to pay up front or if we were going to do half up front and half later. There was really no way to confirm that when you were starting a mix process. So I definitely feel like the moment when I started being able to be busy enough and good enough to start charging for people is when I got onboarded onto engineers, and it just helped me like professionalize myself as much as possible and yeah, promote myself that way.
That's interesting. So I want to kind of like tailor the questions towards people who have like no projects. They're still trying to get some clients. Imagine the kid in college, like that you were just trying to get that first mix before you decided to charge. What advice would you give that person?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's the music industry, whether you're trying to be an engineer or an artist or a producer, whatever, it's not the easiest industry to break into. So consistency is the number one thing. Um, just you gotta keep trying every single. What I did is I tried every single thing that I thought of until one worked out. And for me, it was social media at the beginning, and then whatever worked out, I did it as much as I possibly could until it started not working out, and I would try something else. Um, but yeah, I would just truly know that there are so many art. I mean, something that's really helpful that was helpful for me is when I found out how many songs got released on Spotify every day. If you look at it's tens of thousands of songs that get released every single day, and there are extremely big artists who have their engineers, and you're probably not going to be able to reach them, but that leaves tens of thousands of people who are mixing their own songs, or they're not getting their songs mixed and releasing songs that could sound way better. So if you don't have any mixed projects at this time, I would try to reach the people who can't afford to hire the big mix engineers and try to build with them. Um, the cool thing about being an engineer is that I really feel like there's an artist for every engineer, or multiple artists for every engineer. So yeah.
I love that. I was gonna just real quick off topic when you said there was that gap in time when you were giving free mixes. It was when you just kept getting them when you realized, oh, I need to start charging for this.
Yeah, so my mentality and I do think that you should not be working for free. Like you should try to charge as soon as you possibly can. I also don't think that you should be charging people if you're not good enough to be delivering a product that they can market themselves with. So at the time, I knew that I still had a lot to learn, and I was not at the point to where I should have been mixing for money, and I also didn't have enough clients. So my goal was like, okay, I'm gonna hit up every single person possible and try to mix as much as I can. And the moment that I'm able to like not meet a deadline or anything because I have too many people hitting me up, is when I should start charging. And then that's also how I figured out how much I should charge. Like I started charging probably like, I don't know, $50 a mix at first, and then the moment that $50 a mix, I had enough people to where I was starting to mess up deadlines, I would up my price, and then every single time that happens, I try to up my price.
Interesting. Tell me, what are your top three features that like helped you? Obviously, you have over 1,000 projects, so you use the features on the platform. What would you say your top three favorite features are?
Yeah, I would say I don't even know if I would count it as a feature, but like the overall workflow of each project helped me a ton. Like I think everybody has a little bit of procrastination in them, and that was definitely something I struggled with. And then it's a lot easier to not procrastinate when you have a step-by-step process of when you need to deliver a mix and when you get files, compared to you just keeping things on a random calendar and trying to deliver things to people. So that helped me a ton. I did have a couple of clients already at the time when I started mixing. So whenever the option of generating like your own bookings got added, that helped me a ton. A lot of times we work with artists who aren't the most technological people. So just being able to like send them a link with that song title and everything set up to where they just have to pay and then go through the process, that made it super easy for me. Um, and then just locking in the payment ahead of time, and especially being able to explain to the artist like, yeah, you're gonna pay up front, but I can't touch any of the money until you complete the project. That I feel like was the selling point every single time when I try to tell an artist to book me through engineers, because from an artist perspective, I can understand you not wanting to pay for a mix that you haven't delivered yet, or the engineer hasn't delivered yet, but letting them know like, the moment you accept a mix is when I get paid. Usually, did it every single time for me.
How do your clients like the platform? I know you probably had to transfer a few clients before you really took off. What was that process like?
Yeah, that was pretty easy. I mean, some artists are easier than others, but I feel like not just saying this to promote the platform. I've had multiple artists like reach out to me and be like, the process is straight ahead. You didn't miss a deadline. Like, it helps them out as well. Like, I'm sure if I'm over here and trying to like deal with different projects and deadlines, I'm sure the artist has the same thing that they're doing for different reasons. So anything that makes our process easier also makes their process easier, in my opinion. And then the artists that I met directly from the website usually always have like great things to say about it. I never even had to like ask, like I've never been asked. I've never done a project on engineers and then been asked to take an invoice outside of engineers, but the opposite has definitely happened to where like we're doing random invoices and emails and they're like, is there any way to make this easier? So
Amazing, amazing. Question for you. So, obviously, you have over 1,000 projects, and everybody, including myself, I'm fascinated by that whole thing, like how you built the clientele, how they keep coming back. But ideally, I really want to harp on like the beginning, and just the process of getting there and marketing. So, obviously, you're an engineer. Everyone's not a graphic designer, a social media marketer, and all those things. How did you find like what worked for you as far as going to get new clients?
yeah, it was definitely a process of trying out a bunch of different things. What I like most about engineering in general, but also engineers, is that I never felt like I was like trying to beat an algorithm. Like if you're trying to promote things on social media, it doesn't matter how good your content is. It's all about how well you can promote the content and beat the algorithm to where people actually see it. With engineering, I feel like it's not that. It's more like once you do get a project, how good can you deliver on the project to have that person come back to you, but also have other people that they know and people that they're around come to you as well. Um, so that's yeah, it was. I feel like I don't necessarily have any advice that is a cheat code. I feel like you just need to get as good as you possibly can on your craft, and in the long run, that proves like you'll have consistent clientele. The clients that you get keep coming back to you, which is I feel like the best thing that can possibly happen. So you're not constantly looking for new people. Um, yeah, I would definitely put the quality of your project is what's gonna market you best as your engineer, as an engineer. And then, I mean, with that being said, though, social media did help me a ton. I was when I wasn't getting any mixed projects, I tried to make like a couple of videos on TikTok and Instagram showing tutorials on how to mix songs, and I had quite a few people being like, "Okay, well, this guy's mixing songs online. It looks like he knows what he's doing. Let me send my songs to him to mix." Um, so, social media can definitely help as well.
Interesting. So I know you went at what point did you feel like, okay, I have like my good like group of clientele where I feel comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, it's whenever you're freelancing at anything, but definitely engineering. I feel like it's pretty hard to be fully confident on like the consistency that you'll have because you're always gonna have good months and bad months. I personally feel like I'm very lucky. I'm 23 years old and I've never N and I think engineers is definitely part of it, but I've always felt like I've been pretty booked up since things started getting consistent for me, through the engineers platform. So yeah, but as of recent, I've definitely felt like I've been able to not just spend every single second of my life mixing songs. I feel like I have consistent work to where I can, put deadlines in the correct times to where I can live life and mix at the same time, which is pretty cool.
100% balance is everything, especially with all the projects you're juggling. I know you were Dolby Atmos certified through the engineers. Tell me what it's been like since you've been certified. And you were
Yeah,
in the
for sure.
first cohort to get certified,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the first group, and that experience was amazing, and I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it, but that's probably the first I would give all the credit of me getting, like, my first label gig through that certification because the first time I got, hit up to mix anything by a label was right after that certification because they needed an Atmos mix done for an out for an artist, and at the time, not everybody knew how to do Atmos yet, so that certification definitely, I feel like, put me in a category that most people couldn't be in for the time being. Yeah, it was great. I mean, Atmos is more and more popular now. Like, I feel like there's not a single project that comes out at the major level that doesn't have Atmos mixes done to them. So knowing how to do it is super essential. And yeah, I feel like I was definitely when I was talking to people right after the certification, I feel like I was telling people what Atmos was more than telling them how to do it, which is definitely not the case now. So that course came like at the perfect timing.
Well, that goes into my next question, which was like, obviously, everybody wants label projects. And, once you get locked in with a label, it feels good, especially if it's your first. So I wanted to talk to you, like, what advice would you give someone who's trying to get in touch with the label, get some more label
Yeah.
projects, get their skills up to par for a label?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I feel like working with independent artists and when you're starting out is super important. If you got to make sure that like the quality of your product is good enough to where when that opportunity comes, you're ready for it. With that being said, as an engineer, you're definitely not gonna be able to just reach out to a label and ask them to mix your songs like you would to an independent artist. So, as cliche as it sounds, I feel like building relationships with your peers is by far the most important thing. I feel like every single label gig that I did get was from other engineers. I know Demetrius, who's a mastering engineer at Million Dollar Snare, he randomly called me one day and he was like, "Hey, I just mastered a song for this one artist. She signed to Sony. They asked us to do an Atmos mix, but we don't have the time to do it. Can you do it?" And I said yes. And he only knew me because we had built a relationship before that and knew that I did Atmos. Um, and that ended up, I mean, it's great whenever you can work with a label. The budgets are usually way higher than independent artists. So, and just off of that one call of Demetrius trusting me, I ended up mixing like 2 albums in Atmos for that artist with the label, which was amazing. And then yeah, every other label gig that I do have, it traces back to like an engineer or a producer or a songwriter that I met at some point that I just worked with and developed a relationship with. And the moment anybody gets any project with a label, you try to get like the people that you know involved whenever you need them. Now I'm at the point to where I didn't have time to mix something, and the first thing I did is reach out to other people around me and be like, "Hey, are you able to like help me out with this?" So
I know,
yeah,
what's crazy is I tell people all the time on the platform, like, jump in the community, like, make friends, like, network, come to NAM, come to our events, because like, you
yeah,
think it's about networking with artists, but it's not just that. Like, network with your peers because you never know, like, when a situation like that happens, when it's like, "Hey, I'm, like, at capacity with projects, but I
yeah,
just met homie from the Dolby Atmos course, and I know he's solid. Imma throw him this project." So, you think
yeah,
it's
and
valuable.
yeah, 100%. Like it seems backwards, but reaching out to like A&Rs and things, if you're the engineer, just isn't going to help you. You're trying to get to like they can't, and to their point, they can't necessarily just trust a random engineer no matter what their credits look like. But when you've worked, for example, if there's a producer that produces for an artist that I work with constantly and I mix all their songs and that producer starts producing for someone else, they already know what my work is with that one artist, so they can recommend me. And once the A&R is like, okay, well, he's done project, we trust him and he trusts the guy mixing it, then they can trust you as well. But going directly to the A&R or the label just usually, in my experience at least, has never turned into like actual gigs.
And I know you've made, like, several friends off the platform. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
tell me a little bit about that. I just think it's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. Like I can think of Trevor is someone who was also in the first Atmos group, and we met that first time there, and then the year after we ended up going to NAM together. He lives in New York, I live in Nashville, and we both just booked an Airbnb out there and spent like 4 days in LA together, which was cool. That same year at NAM, I met another engineer on the platform called Dawson, and he's told me like some crazy stories that he had engineering, and then I ended up having him like on my YouTube channel for a video, and we talk to this day. Um, all the time. Like Demetrius and Depp over at Million Dollar Snare. Like they've both helped me so much. Even when I was trying to figure out how much I should charge at the very beginning when I first got onto EngineEars, Depp called me right up and like told me his story, and that helped me a ton with establishing how much I should charge independent artists versus labels and all this stuff. So um, yeah, the one cool thing about being an engineer, I feel like it's like our community is really helpful. I know there is some gatekeeping from older engineers and things, but for the most part, I'm always like willing to help people as much as possible. And I feel like I've had that same experience with other people helping me. So yeah.
Amazing. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what we built here, and, like, that's what we started this whole platform for. It was for community, so that alone is like I feel like we did it just based off of that. So I love hearing those
Yeah, for
stories
sure.
and hearing all the people that have met up at NAM. But I saw a question in the chat, and you've mentioned it a few times now. Setting your prices.
Yeah.
How important is setting your prices as a beginning engineer, as a more experienced engineer? Just tell me that process of like what would you advise someone who zero clients, I'm just getting started, I'm trying to like learn, like how would I set my price?
Sure, and it's a tough conversation, and I often hear from like engineers who are more established and are charging a lot of money for mixes. They can get almost upset by seeing like how little new engineers charge because I understand it when someone's charging $100 for a mix and you're charging $1,000 for a mix. The person charging 1,000 for a mix is going to have to start fighting a lot more to get those mixes. With that being said, if you're the engineer that's has no projects, you're definitely not going to get booked by starting at $1,000. So if you are lucky, I feel like you should. Yeah, I don't know. The biggest thing that helped me out was figuring out how busy I am and charge based on that. Don't undervalue yourself too much. Like the moment that you get an artist who you know has a big budget, or you get put into a circle where you know you can start charging more, definitely don't keep charging less just so that you get projects over other people. I don't think that's cool. But I feel like if you need to work yourself up by charging less than most people do because you're less credited than other people are, then that's fine. Um, I wish I had like a set number that I could give you to like start at, but everybody's situation is so much different, and yeah.
Yeah. From the relationships that you've had just in the audio engineering community, what's like the biggest piece of like a takeaway or advice that you've learned just in the space?
Uh, there's so much. I feel like something that has very recently that I recently had to start like thinking about was balancing engineering and just the rest of your life better. I remember the first Atmos meeting, the Atmos group that I came to out in LA. I remember talking to Ali, and he says something about his experience and how he got burnt out at one point from just doing too much. And I remember agreeing with him, but in the back of my mind, I was still, and I still feel like I'm very new, but I was so new that I was like, I'm working as much as I can. I'm not gonna get burnt out. And then I definitely found myself at one point this year where, you work until 4 a.m. one day, and then you have mixes to get done the next day, and you just can't get in front of a computer. So I definitely feel like trying to balance things out as much as you possibly can is super important. Stay organized with your projects so that you don't get overworked. Like I feel like organization is key. I feel like I could have 20 projects, and if I'm organizing them really well, I could be way less tired getting them done with other than 5 projects that I'm not organizing well. Um, so yeah, organization is key. Balancing things is super important. You're definitely gonna have some nights where you gotta overwork and get burnt out, but if you like it good enough, then it's usually fine.
Right. That's great advice. I think my question for you next would be like, what was working with Post Malone like? What was that project like? How did that come about?
Yeah, that was super cool, and, I mean, before I even said I wanna give credit to Louis Bell, that's his guy, and, yeah, he was amazing. I worked with him when Post Malone was here at the studio, and most of my job definitely was making sure that Louis Bell had everything that he possibly needed so that he could operate the session however he wants, because from my understanding, he's the only one that records Post Malone, and their process is so fast and intuitive that as long as I did my job to make sure that Louis Bell was set up with everything he needed, then the session went well. But yeah, I got the gig just from the studio. Post Malone's team booked the studio for something that I honestly don't think I've seen anyone do besides him. But they booked the studio for 4 days at a 24-hour lockout. And yeah, here at Blackbird, we don't let any artist like be here without someone that's on staff being on the session at all times. So I was here for 4 days for 24-hour lockouts, which was something. Post Malone definitely works more than anyone that I've ever seen. The guy was up until super late and then would go to the hotel for a little bit and come back as soon as he could. Um, but it was super cool. He's definitely going into like his country phase right now. And that time that they were in Nashville, I feel like was his first time here. I know that there were a lot of country artists like Morgan Wallen that he now has a song with, and Brad Paisley, and a bunch of people just coming in and being in the room and seeing like the way that they were teaching him how country music is made. And he was super open to like learning about it. It was cool. It was truly, like, an awesome experience. I learned a lot from it.
Yeah. So what's up next for you? What's like what can we expect to see from EDG in the next few months or for the rest of
Yeah,
the
I mean,
year?
I for sure. I definitely have, a couple of projects that I'm super excited about. There was a release yesterday with Coda the Friend, Boz, and Price that I got to mix, and I ended up doing the whole EP that Coda the Friend and Price worked with. So I'm excited for that. There's another album that I've been working on since January with an artist that I can't speak of right now because it's not out yet, but I truly can't wait till that comes out because it's super exciting. Um, and yeah, I definitely just hope to keep working as much as possible. I've been too busy to do too much social media stuff like I used to, but social media was definitely how I got my start in engineering in getting
Really?
projects. So yeah, I feel like, I mean, when I was talking about trying everything that I could possibly start, I was trying everything that I could possibly do. One of the things that I did was make a TikTok video and it got a lot of views. So I kept doing it and people started hitting me up off of it. So I definitely hope to start doing that again soon. I have some cool videos lined up and yeah.
Talk me through that. So, um, you just like studied other engineers and like how they were marketing themselves, or you were just studying social media and seeing like what worked for you?
Uh Not necessarily, I guess, and this is something that again, I think I heard Ali speak about. He said something and he was like, I could tell you exactly how I did it and it worked out for me, but if every 100 people try it, it's probably not going to work out for them. Everybody's career is so different. So I was trying everything that I could. I would go to like writer rounds, and try to meet songwriters, see if they needed songs mixed. I would go to studios and try to like sit in on sessions and things like that. And then the one thing that worked out for me when I was in college is making a mix video, and someone DM me like, "Hey, it looks like you know what you're doing. Can I send you my song?" So I did that for the whole time that I was in college. Plus, last year I was still pretty consistent on social media, just doing like mix tutorials. And outside of the fact that I really enjoy doing them because I enjoy teaching to other engineers, artists were seeing them and being like, this stuff in your video sounds good. I'll trust you with my song. And from there, try to do good so that they keep coming back to you for other songs.
You know, you see your profile now and like, 1,100 projects booked. Nobody really sees like the hustle and grind that you went through, DMing people, sending messages, hustling in studios,
For
networking.
sure.
Um, we see you now today and like it just looks like, oh my God, he's doing so well. No one saw that behind the scenes.
Thank
So
you.
hustle is a huge thing in this industry. Tell me how important it is to have that hustle about yourself, to always be learning and just trying everything till it works.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole game, being consistent. And like, if you truly, unless you truly love this, I don't think you can make it work because it is a lot of late nights and early mornings and dealing with artists that might not necessarily be the nicest people because they've also been up super late and got up super early. So, um, yeah, I feel like up until this year when I started balancing out things a little bit more, I was definitely going to sleep at like 4 a.m. and getting up for when I was in college, getting up for 8 a.m. The next morning, which wasn't um, my favorite thing to do, but you just got to do it. And honestly, I say it wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I didn't mind it at all because I was learning so much and enjoying what I was doing. Um, yeah, I think it's just super important to like figure out what you want to do. If you want to work in like a commercial studio, maybe like go get an internship, and that's going to require a lot of late nights, but it's going to be worth it in the end. If you want to mix directly, then start hitting up everybody you possibly can, and understand that you're not going to work with the biggest artists right away, but just if you're consistent and you like doing this, something is going to work out at some point. And the moment that happens, take off with it as much as you can, and then repeat the process until like this becomes consistent enough for you to make a career out of it.
So basically, perfect your skills, like your
Yeah.
craft, and then first figure out what you want, and then perfect it, and then go out there and get it.
Yeah,
It's
100%. And
basically
getting out there and
amazing.
getting it, it's going to be different for everybody, but it's as long as you want it to work, you're going to figure out something that works for you at some point, and that's when you have to run off with it.
How does location affect just business? Like, I know you're in Nashville, it's a music hub, but you have clients from all over the world. So
Sure.
tell me, like, how that's helped you, like the
Yeah, I feel
platform
like,
in itself with remote mixing, just being able to remote mix.
yeah, I mean, like, I used to think very differently of this. Like I thought I was gonna graduate college and go to LA as soon as I possibly could because as far as I was concerned, like all the artists were out there at the time. And then yeah, engineers like kind of showed me like, okay, I'm staying in my apartment here in Nashville, which is where I was at the time going to school in, and I'm mixing for people in LA. So like if I was living in LA, they wouldn't come to the studio and mix with me. They would have sent me the song remotely anyways. Um, and yeah, so I feel like especially in today's age, like location matters less than it used to for sure. Um, unless you're trying to work in studios, then I feel like that depends on what studio you're trying to work at and what type of environment you want to be in. And, if at that point the main options you have in America, or at least, are like New York, LA, or Nashville, I would say, are the three cities that have like the major studios. Um, but yeah, as far as mixing, I feel like location doesn't matter as much now, as long as you're able to like network online as much as possible. For me, something that I've like, as I get older, I keep thinking that I'm only 23, so I'm super young, I feel like. But when I'm older, and hopefully everything is very consistent, I would love to like move back to Italy, where I'm from, and mix songs from there. And I honestly never thought that was a possibility, because the music industry anywhere outside of America is so small compared to what it is here. But with the platform and the way I get mixes remotely, I feel like that is more and more of a possibility every day. So
That's amazing. Oh, I hope that works out for you. I'm excited for
yeah, for
you.
sure.
Um,
Thank you.
I want to open the floor up. Does anyone have any questions for EDG? I know I answered one of them already regarding mixes. Somebody said, that being said, when feeling burnt out, what's the great way to get a quality mix done quick?
I don't know if quick is the and actually, yeah. So I guess taking breaks at that point is important. Like, you're gonna have times where you're burnt out, but you can't, especially if it's like a label gig and the budget's really good. You can't just pass up on it because you're burnt out. So I feel like at that point, if your ears are fatigued and you're just emotionally, physically drained, just take as many breaks as possible. Like, I did it recently to where I had to mix a couple songs and I was really tired. I had a very late night the day before. So sitting at a computer for like 3 hours and trying to get the mix knocked out wasn't gonna work. So what I did is just like I would sit down for 10, 15 minutes, mix the drums, stop, go outside for 10 to 15 minutes, come back in, throw another instrument into the mix, come back, get the vocal in there, and just take as many breaks as possible. That way, you're like still getting it done in like a timely manner to where you're not gonna miss the deadline. But you're not just sitting there staring at a TV at a screen the whole time while you're already burnt out from looking at a screen the whole time. Yeah, taking breaks is super important, and it's honestly probably gonna lead to better mixes too. Because the way the human ear works, you need breaks, or it's gonna start. You're gonna start hearing weird things. So
Oh, for sure. Great advice. Another question. Do you still predominantly use headphones to mix to this day, or do you use your ears within the studio room space since that's what you have access to now?
yeah, I feel like it definitely. I'm definitely more on speakers than headphones now that I think about it. But um, I was definitely in headphones for way longer when I didn't have access to rooms that sounded good enough to where they would translate. I'm lucky enough now to where I have access to some studio rooms that are like perfectly tuned with like super expensive monitors, and I know that I'm gonna be able to mix it. And if it sounds good, I can take it to headphones or to the car, and it's gonna sound good anyways, which definitely helps the process. But if you are in a room that is not like sound treated at all, definitely headphones can help a lot. And then even if you have like some monitors in the room, as long as you have some type of acoustic treatment in there, just don't keep the volume too high, because then the room is going to start reflecting more and more. But keep the volume at a moderate level, and then as long as you learn what you're listening to, should be good. But I personally like to mix on speakers more than headphones. I can feel things a lot more. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do though, especially if you're traveling.
Nice. Great answer. Hope that answered your question, Dane. Here's another one. Favorite technique to sit artist vocals nicely within a mix.
uh yeah, I wish that it's crazy. Like, the more you learn about mixing and the more experience you get with them, I feel like the one answer you want to get for everything is just like listen to the song, because every song is going to be different. Some songs are going to need the vocal to be really loud, some it can be quieter. But if we're talking like technical, listening in mono can help a lot. Besides that, listening to the reference mix that they gave you is honestly probably more important. It's not as much as about how you want the vocal to sit in the mix. It's about like what their intent for the song was. If the vocal's super loud in the reference, they probably really want to feel it. If the song vocal is like kind of buried, they probably more of a feeling thing than the loudness thing. So you just want to make it sit it in there where it feels balanced. But yeah, every song is going to be different. Just do what feels best in the moment, I feel like.
Nice. No worries, Dame. Glad I got both of those questions answered for you. This is just cause wants to know, do you work off of a mixing template or do you build the mix from the scratch?
Yeah, I definitely, people use the word template in a lot of different ways. I definitely don't have a template that has like plugins and things already set on it. I do have a Pro Tools template with like routing things that I use pretty often just so to make the process faster. But I like to start from scratch on a lot of things, especially it depends on the genre, but if you're working in like a lot of hip hop, pop music, you're probably going to be getting track outs and stems with a lot of effects and things printed on from the reference. So I don't know. I don't personally like to start with a template that has a set sound already. I feel like that's kind of unfair to the artist. Every artist has like a different vision for their song. So starting from what their vision is and then doing what you need to do in order to bring it to the final product, I feel like it's part of our job. So I like a blank template without a sound to it.
Lovely. Um, Freaked by T. Hey T. She wants to know how long did it take you to become a full-time audio engineer through Engineers?
Um, Again, I feel like I was super lucky. Like I feel like I was almost doing this full time when I was 21 and a junior in college, which I don't want people to like get disencouraged or anything because it's definitely not standard. Like I have so many friends of mine that are 10 years older than me and they tell me like I finally feel like I'm doing this full time and in a balanced way and I'm happy. And there's nothing wrong with that. This career is so different for everybody. It's not like a regular 9 to 5. So as long as you like it and you want to do it, it's gonna work out for you at some point. I feel like maybe I have some imposter syndrome. I'm definitely doing this full time, but I have a hard time to this day admitting that I'm doing this full time. So, yeah, as of lately, though, I've definitely felt more and more confident in the work that I'm getting and how consistent it's been. So, yeah,
Nice. Great
and I definitely
answer.
have to give all the credit to engineers. Like my the amount of projects that I was getting once I got onboarded to the platform doubled or tripled within like 6 months. Like it brought me from getting a couple mixes a week to I remember in college having like a calendar on my wall and like every single day had like 2 mixes on it that I had to knock out. So and a lot of them were artists that I just didn't even know. They were just hitting me up directly from the platform. So
Well, that's you. I feel like you did what you had to do to put yourself in front of those artists. We just did our best to help you collaborate with them and provide you those tools. But, I hear you keep saying I'm lucky, I'm lucky. I don't You were hustling. Like you were in there hustling, you were in DMs, you were reaching out to people, you were popping up at events. Like you don't take the credit from yourself. Like of course we
yeah,
offered you the tools to be able to manage that many projects, but bro, you hustled. You
I
really did
appreciate it.
what you had to do. I'm gonna go to the next question. Ghost effects. Sorry, I didn't see your question. He said, I heard Eduardo say he's done some TikToks and YouTube vids and stuff. Has he tried doing ads of any sort? Or has everything been word of mouth or organic traffic from socials so far that he's funneled into engineers?
Yeah, so I personally, I can honestly say I've never paid for any type of promotion ads or anything. Like the most I might have ever done is like put $10 into like an Instagram post and realize that it wasn't worth paying $10 to promote it. If other people have like different experiences, then good for them. I hope it works out. But I personally feel like just if you're trying to do the social media thing and get clients that way, just make quality content and it'll get spread around. Paying for ads or like promotions, I personally never felt like it was needed and it never worked out in my favor. So, yeah.
Just to piggyback off that question, like, what if have you always been like the content creator type, or I'm not shy in front of a camera, or
No,
no?
definitely not. No, I was extremely shy. Like something to help. I think before I ever put out a video, I recorded like 10 or 20 of them just by myself. And yeah. And even if I go back, I think I've pulled most of my super old videos off because I was so shy in front of the camera. Um, but yeah, no, that definitely wasn't my personality. It was yeah, I was to the point where at that moment I didn't have a lot of mixes going, and even if I was young and knew that I had a lot of time, I was like, I don't want to waste time and risk it. So I was like, let me try to make some videos and see if it works out, and it did. So the moment it worked out, I feel like I was like, all right, whether I'm shy or not in front of a camera, let me get rid of that and make the video and make it as good as I can because it's working out.
And now you're comfortable, like, doing
Yeah,
making
for
them?
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird. Like I've had to take a couple weeks off of it just from being too busy mixing, and now every time I turn on a camera, I feel like I'm shyer than I used to be. But yeah, I mean, I think people's biggest problem is like thinking about what other people are gonna say about the videos that you're making, and
right.
I don't know. The moment you realize that that doesn't matter at all, and like if the people that are talking about your videos in a negative way aren't the people that are gonna give you mixed projects, so just make the
Mhm.
videos and you'll be all right.
Amazing. Great advice, because I'm always like, what if I'm not a graphic designer or I'm not a content creator? I feel like and that's that hustle about you. You were like, I'm gonna try this, see if it works, and make myself
Yeah.
uncomfortable. So it wasn't a comfortable journey. It was uncomfortable for you, but you made it work,
Yeah,
and
and
I
if
think
you are
that's
trying to
cool.
do Yeah, and if you're trying to do the content thing, I think figuring out what type of content people wanna see from you and content you wanna make is, like, super important. Like, as of recently, I've noticed, like, maybe I don't wanna do the whole, like, algorithmy, try to catch people with thumbnails type of video, so I have a couple videos where I just, like, mix a song from, like, importing the stems all the way to final mix, and it's like a 2-hour video where you show the whole process, and that way I like it better because 'cause I'm actually mixing instead of showing, like, a 10-minute video,
Yeah,
and other people like are you're gonna find the people that like those videos as well, and they're gonna gravitate towards you, and I feel like that's how you find your audience.
amazing, great advice. Lee Sounds Works. He said, any networking tips for people outside the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're definitely fighting an uphill battle if you're in the US compared to outside of the US, I feel like, but still very much possible, especially with platforms like EngineEars and all the different social media that are out there. Um, you're just gonna have to do a lot more to hit up people because you're not gonna be able to go to um, in-person events as much, but that's fine. Yeah, it's I feel like just figure out what type of platforms work out best for you and do the best you can to put as much out on them as possible. Yeah.
Amazing. Any other questions from the chat, guys? I think we answered everyone's questions. You're welcome, guys. No problem. Okay. I think we give us a closing statement, EDG. Let us know last piece of advice you would give. Obviously, you see based off the questions, like people are fascinated by just the marketing behind it, the branding behind it. How did he get 1,000 projects? And I think you
Yeah.
covered that, but overall, just like, closing statements and last piece of advice for the community.
Yeah. I mean, as the first thing you got to do is figure out what you want to do. And then the moment you figure it out, just be as consistent as possible. I definitely didn't start with 1,000 projects. I started with 0 projects, just like everybody else on EngineEars. And as long as your quality's good, I knocked out a mix, did good enough to get a good review on it. And the moment an artist who doesn't have an engineer gets on the platform and they see that you have multiple 5-star reviews, it's a lot more likely that they'll trust you with their mix. So just make sure your quality is up there first, and then as soon as you're confident with your product, do the best you possibly can on people's mixes, and word of mouth will get spread. People will see the reviews, and you build it up one step at a time. Yeah.
Amazing. EDG, you want to sign off for us?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always glad to do anything you guys ask me to do. The platform's been super helpful in my career. So any way that I can um, share game to someone else to make their career successful, I'm more than happy to do so. So yeah, thank you so much.
Amazing. That's what it's about. All right, guys, y'all have a great day. Happy Friday, and thanks for being here.